The hearing ended with formal thanks, but once lawmakers stepped outside the room, it was obvious the confrontation was far from over. The media labeled it an explosive hearing. Clips went viral on social media. Patel's fiery defense, Mukbata's controlled but piercing criticism. Supporters and critics on both sides rushed to frame their own narratives. The real meaning of this episode was clear. In America, the role of security agencies, accountability, and politics are colliding head-on. Lucy Mukbata's voice represented those who believe questioning power is a democratic right. Kash Patel's voice represented those who believe protecting the morale and honor of frontline officers is equally vital. This was not a story of victory or defeat, but a reflection of a struggle that defines democracy itself. Questioning authority, and authority pushing back. And even after the cameras shut off, the debate continued in Capitol Hill hallways, television studios, and among the public. That is why this hearing was not just a meeting, but a story far longer than 10 minutes. A story that proves democracy survives not in silence, but in confrontation, where accountability is born.
Certainly the immigration laws would allow him, and in fact require him, to be deported. I certainly would support that. But the problem that we have here is what you allege, what Ms. Green alleges, what the Attorney General alleges, is not the judiciary. You don't get to decide whether or not he is an MS-13 member. And you don't have to take my word for it, because Judge Wilkinson, a Fourth Circuit judge, very conservative, addressed this argument. He said, the government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process. If the government is confident in its position, it should be assured that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal order. Will you commit right now to give Mr. Abrego Garcia that process where you can prove your allegation that he is a member of MS-13?
सीखो ऐप डाउनलोड करो और अपने 100 वीडियोस में ही मिलियन सब्सक्राइबर्स का प्लान बनाओ। तो इंस्टॉल बटन पे क्लिक करो और सीखो ऐप डाउनलोड करो।
Congressman, that judge that you just quoted did not say he was not a member of MS-13. Who countered this individual?
Yeah, he knows that. This is a Fourth Circuit judge. He knows all of what the evidence is, and he's saying if that evidence... So you're not going to commit to follow this order. You won't commit to follow this court order.
By the way, he identified
Madam Secretary, I reclaim my time. Stop filibustering. Stop filibustering.
By gang members of MS-13.
Will you give Mr. Abrego Garcia the due process that the Supreme Court and Judge Wilkinson has required you to give him?
Abrego Garcia is an El Salvador resident who is in his home country. If he were to come back to this country, he would be immediately removed again.
How do you know?
He has received and been treated appropriately,
so
sir, and he is not.
How can you say he's been treated appropriately if the Supreme Court has ruled 9-0? 9-0 that he hasn't been treated appropriately. Why is your opinion better and have more authority than the Supreme Court?
Investigators, 2 judges, an immigration court that all said he was MS-13 and was removed from this country.
But you understand, that is you saying that. That is you saying that.
That is them saying that. This
no.
is investigators and law
that is
enforcement
you making that determination.
Built against him. If you don't
the
trust our law
court
enforcement
has considered all that. The judge has considered all that, Madam Secretary. And if you would be quiet, because I'm reclaiming my time, you are not following this court order. But let's focus on the court order, because this opinion also says that to facilitate, which the Supreme Court is requiring, is an active verb. It requires that steps be taken. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Abrego Garcia to allow him to get due process?
Abrego Garcia is in his home country.
What steps have you taken?
If your continued advocacy for him were to...
I'm not advocating for him.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
advocating for a
Absolutely.
court order, Madam
Gone to the
Secretary.
mat for this
The
man
court
who
order
has terrorized
says
people
that
in
you
traffic
must take
with human
steps
beings.
to follow the court order.
Today, global politics stands at a turning point, a moment where a single decision could rewrite history. The Russia-Ukraine war, which for years has been more than just a fight between two nations and has become a global crisis, now appears to be moving toward a possible path of peace. And once again, at the center of this potential breakthrough is one familiar name: Donald Trump. Donald Trump claims that a major peace deal plan between the United States and Ukraine is already on the table, a plan that could finally bring an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. The biggest and most controversial part of this proposal is a 15-year U.S. security guarantee for Ukraine. Trump is presenting this as one of the biggest diplomatic achievements of his political career. First, let's understand why this news matters so much. The Russia-Ukraine war has split the world into clear camps. On one side stand the United States and its allies. On the other, Russia and those backing Moscow. This war has taken countless lives, displaced millions, and shaken the entire European economy to its core. So when Donald Trump says this war can be ended through negotiations instead of bullets, the world automatically pays attention. According to Trump, the United States would guarantee Ukraine's security for the next 15 years. That means if Russia launches another attack during this period, the U.S. would stand with Ukraine, directly or indirectly. This support could include military aid, weapons, intelligence sharing, and, if necessary, direct involvement. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed that the U.S. has indeed offered a 15-year security guarantee. But Zelensky is not fully convinced. He believes Ukraine needs far more than that: 30 to 50 years of strong security guarantees. Zelensky's concern is clear and rooted in history. Russia has broken agreements before, and if the guarantee is only short-term, there is a real fear that Russia could regroup and strike again in the future. This raises a critical question. What exactly is this security guarantee? Is it the same as NATO membership? The answer is no. This would be a separate framework, one where the U.S., possibly along with a few allies, takes direct responsibility for Ukraine's defense without formally bringing Ukraine into NATO. In short, NATO-level protection without NATO membership. Trump argues that Russia understands only strength. His logic is simple. If Moscow knows that attacking Ukraine would mean a direct confrontation with the United States, it would think twice. Trump calls this a deterrent strategy. But this is where the controversy begins. Russia has repeatedly made it clear that any Western security guarantees for Ukraine are a direct threat to its national security. Moscow already believes the U.S. is deeply involved in the war, and this new plan, according to Russia, could push the situation even closer to a wider conflict. Russia's biggest concern is Ukraine's growing alignment with the West. Moscow does not want U.S. or NATO influence expanding near its borders. That's why the Kremlin views this peace deal proposal with deep suspicion. Now let's talk about American domestic politics. Trump is tying this deal directly to his political future. He wants to project himself as a leader who ends wars, not starts them. He repeatedly claims that if he had been in power, the Russia-Ukraine war would never have happened in the first place. However, inside the United States, the proposal faces strong opposition. Several lawmakers argue that a 15-year security guarantee could drag America into yet another long and expensive foreign conflict. U.S. taxpayers have already spent billions supporting Ukraine. Some experts are also questioning whether future
You are here under oath. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Abrego Garcia pursuant to this court order?
It's got to be extremely discouraging to be one of your constituents. To see you fight for a terrorist like this and not fight for them is extremely alarming to me.
I'm fighting for due process, and that's under the Constitution.
Gentleman's
and you
time
should
has
fight too for
expired.
due process.
Mr. Goldman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Tanadar. Secretary Noem, your opening statement includes a lot of data and numbers, but it doesn't mention asylum. How many people have claimed asylum since January 21st of this year?
I don't have that number readily available to me right now, but I can get that for you.
Do you have a sense? Is it
I don't.
dozens, hundreds, thousands?
I don't.
You are aware, are you not, that asylum is a lawful pathway into the country?
I am.
And are you aware of how and why the United States implemented our asylum laws?
We grant asylum to individuals who are feeling threatened specifically by their government through violent activities that are perpetuated in their own home countries.
Right, and it was originally implemented because Jews fleeing from the Holocaust were not allowed to seek refuge in this country, even though they clearly had no country to go to and had nowhere else to go. And those Jews in the Holocaust were rounded up frequently by the Gestapo in Nazi Germany, a secret undercover police unit that we know rounded up the Jews and sent them to the gas chambers. One of the things that I want to address with you briefly is, I think you said your testimony was that agents who are wearing masks do so as part of their undercover disguise. Is that right?
Said if the need arises to where they have activities that require them to be undercover at times or to protect their identity to continue their work and their duties.
So if
that
an
may be
agent
utilized.
is conducting an arrest and approaches an individual without their mask on, and then when alerted to being videotaped, puts their mask on, that's not to protect their identity from the individual who's being arrested, right?
It could be, Congressman. I don't know the specifics of the situation.
Is it the
you're
policy of
referencing,
the
but it
Department of Homeland Security now that undercover ICE agents are permitted to wear face masks when executing their official duties?
Sir, it is allowed that they.
Today, at the very heart of American politics and national security, a moment unfolded that sent shockwaves through the corridors of Washington. The House Judiciary Committee was holding an FBI oversight hearing. The room was packed with cameras. Lawmakers sat with thick files in front of them. And at the center of attention stood FBI Chief Kash Patel. What was expected to be a routine hearing quickly transformed, within minutes, into a tense, emotional, and confrontational showdown. The hearing began with standard questions: FBI priorities, budget allocations, and national security concerns. But the atmosphere shifted dramatically the moment Democratic Congresswoman Lucy McBath took the floor. Her voice was firm, her words sharp. She directly challenged Kash Patel, questioning whether the FBI was still fulfilling the mission for which it was created. She argued that recent decisions and leadership choices had raised serious concerns about the agency's direction. According to her, agent dismissals, a drift away from core crimes, and a lack of transparency were collectively weakening public safety. McBath went further, stating that the FBI's real job is to protect children, combat violent crime, and defend the nation from genuine threats, not to get entangled in internal political battles. She accused the current leadership of pushing the agency's energy in the wrong direction. Her tone was calm, but the accusations were heavy. The room fell silent. All eyes and cameras locked onto Kash Patel. That's when Patel's tone changed. Leaning forward in his chair, he fired back sharply. "Before you point fingers at the men and women of the FBI, look at the work they do," he said. His voice rose as he emphasized that FBI agents risk their lives every day, hunting criminals, dismantling gangs, and keeping the nation safe. "Do not disparage this agency," he added, visibly frustrated. That moment became the turning point of the hearing. This clash was not just a war of words. It was a battle of ideologies. On one side stood Lucy McBath, demanding accountability and questioning priorities. On the other stood Kash Patel, defending the morale and achievements of the agency. Both refused to back down. Whispers spread among lawmakers as cameras continued rolling. This was politics unfolding live. The debate soon expanded further. The Jeffrey Epstein case was raised. Several lawmakers questioned whether the FBI had released all documents and evidence related to the case. The accusation was clear. The truth was being withheld from the public. Patel responded forcefully, stating that the FBI operates strictly within the law and has released everything legally possible. He asked bluntly whether the law should be broken just to satisfy curiosity. The question echoed through the room. Lucy McBath intervened again, insisting that transparency is the backbone of democracy, and when major cases raise doubts, the public deserves clarity. Trust, she argued, can only exist when agencies are open and accountable. Patel countered by saying trust is built on results, arrests, convictions, and security. The debate had now turned into transparency versus procedure. Other lawmakers joined in. Some praised the FBI's work, while others echoed concerns and criticism. But the sharp exchange between Lucy McBath and Kash Patel dominated the headlines. It became clear this was not just about one agency. It was about deep political polarization. One side argued that strict oversight of the FBI is essential. The other warned that constant attacks damage the agency's morale. As the hearing continued, Patel cited examples: operations against drug cartels, cybercrime crackdowns, and counterterrorism efforts. He claimed the FBI had delivered record results. McBath responded by repeating that results matter, but direction matters just as much. If priorities are flawed, she warned, success will not last.